Marcus Tate was 34 years old when he found himself staring down the barrel of a flashlight held by Officer Daniel Hargrove on a humid July evening in 2019. According to police reports, Marcus was driving home from his job at a tech startup in downtown Atlanta when Hargrove pulled him over on Peachtree Street for an alleged broken taillight. Marcus, a meticulous man who kept his Honda Accord in pristine condition, knew the claim was dubious but complied with the officer's instructions, keeping his hands visible on the steering wheel. Hargrove, a 12-year veteran of the Atlanta Police Department, approached with a demeanor that suggested he was looking for more than a traffic violation. Hargrove asked Marcus to step out of the vehicle, citing suspicious behavior, though body camera footage later showed Marcus was calm and cooperative. As Marcus stood by the roadside, Hargrove conducted a search of the car, claiming to find a small bag of white powder under the driver's seat. "Looks like cocaine," Hargrove said, according to footage, holding up a plastic baggie that Marcus insisted he had never seen before. Hargrove handcuffed Marcus and read him his rights, charging him with possession of a controlled substance. Marcus, stunned but composed, told the officer, "That's not mine and you know it." Hargrove smirked, as documented in the footage, and replied, "We'll let the courts sort out." Unbeknownst to Hargrove, Marcus Tate was not an ordinary civilian. Born in 1985 in Chicago's South Side, Marcus had grown up in a neighborhood plagued by gang violence and poverty. His mother, Lorraine Tate, worked 2 jobs as a nurse to keep him out of trouble, enrolling him in after-school programs where he discovered a knack for coding. By 18, Marcus was attending DePaul University on a scholarship, majoring in computer science. During his college years, he inadvertently became entangled with a local drug ring when a classmate recruited him to deliver packages, unaware they contained narcotics. When arrested in 2005, Marcus faced a potential 5-year sentence, but was offered a deal by the Drug Enforcement Administration, work as an informant in exchange for leniency. Marcus spent 2 years as a DEA informant, providing intelligence that led to the dismantling of a Chicago-based trafficking network. According to federal records, his cooperation resulted in 12 arrests and the seizure of $3 million in assets. After completing his obligation in 2007, Marcus relocated to Atlanta, where he built a career as a software engineer, working for companies like Google and later a startup specializing in cybersecurity. He kept his DEA past confidential, known only to a few trusted contacts, including his handler, Agent Carla Ruiz, who remained in touch over the years. Back at the traffic stop, Marcus knew Hargrove's actions were deliberate. He had heard stories of officers targeting black drivers, planting evidence to meet quotas or settle personal biases. As Hargrove drove him to the precinct, Marcus calmly requested a lawyer and a drug test, confident it would prove his innocence. At the station, he was booked and placed in a holding cell, where he used his phone call to contact Ruiz, now a senior DA agent in Atlanta. Marcus explained the situation, emphasizing the planted drugs. Ruiz, alarmed, promised to investigate and advised him to say nothing until she arrived. Within hours, Ruiz contacted the Atlanta Police Department's Internal Affairs Division, alerting them to Marcus's history as a reliable informant. She also reached out to a federal prosecutor, David Kessler, who had worked with Marcus during his DEA days. Kessler, intrigued by the case, requested the body camera footage and dispatched records from the stop. By the next morning, Internal Affairs had opened an investigation into Hargrove, focusing on the suspicious discovery of the baggie. Marcus, released on bail, underwent a drug test that came back negative, further casting doubt on Hargrove's claims. The investigation quickly uncovered troubling details about Hargrove's conduct. According to Internal Affairs records, Hargrove had a history of complaints, particularly from black and Latino drivers, alleging harassment and false charges. In 2017, a black teenager claimed Hargrove planted marijuana during a stop, but the case was dismissed due to lack of evidence. Another complaint from 2018 described Hargrove fabricating a resisting arrest charge, though he faced only a written reprimand. The pattern suggested a systemic issue, but Hargrove's supervisors had repeatedly overlooked the allegations, citing his exemplary arrest record. Marcus's case, however, was different. The body camera footage showed inconsistencies in Hargrove's actions. Analysts noted that the baggie appeared in his hand before he discovered it under the seat, and the search seemed rehearsed, as if Hargrove knew where to look. Ruiz provided Kessler with Marcus's DEA file, which documented his credibility and clean record since 2007. Kessler presented the evidence to a federal judge, who issued a warrant to search Hargrove's patrol car and locker. The search yielded a shocking find: a hidden compartment in Hargrove's vehicle containing several baggies of white powder, identical to the one planted on Marcus. On August 2nd, 2019, Hargrove was arrested on charges of evidence tampering, perjury, and civil rights violations. Marcus's possession charge was dropped, and the Atlanta Police Department issued a public apology, acknowledging the misconduct. But the story didn't end there. Marcus, determined to seek justice, filed a civil lawsuit against Hargrove and the department, alleging racial profiling and malicious prosecution. His attorney, Jamal Carter, a civil rights lawyer, argued that Hargrove's actions were part of a broader culture of bias within the department. The lawsuit gained traction when local activists, galvanized by Marcus's story, organized protests demanding systemic reform. The case drew national attention, with media outlets like the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and CNN covering the developments. According to court filings, discovery in the lawsuit revealed internal emails from Hargrove's precinct, where officers used coded language to describe targeting minority drivers for easy busts. One email, sent by Hargrove to a colleague, referred to black drivers as low-hanging fruit for arrests. The revelations prompted the mayor's office to commission an independent review of the police department, which found that over 20 officers had engaged in similar practices over the past decade. Hargrove's trial began in January 2020. Prosecutors presented the body camera footage, the hidden baggies, and testimony from Marcus, Ruiz, and other victims of Hargrove's misconduct. Marcus took the stand, recounting the fear and humiliation of the stop, but also his resolve to expose the truth. "I knew I wasn't the first, but I want to make sure I was the last," he said, according to courtroom transcripts. Hargrove, in his defense, claimed the baggies were part of an undercover operation, but his story unraveled under cross-examination. The jury convicted him on all counts, sentencing him to 7 years in federal prison. The civil lawsuit concluded in June 2020 with a $4 million settlement for Marcus, one of the largest payouts for police misconduct in Atlanta's history. The department implemented reforms, including mandatory body camera audits and bias training, though activists argued these measures were insufficient. Marcus used a portion of the settlement to fund a nonprofit, Tech for Justice, which provided coding boot camps for youth in underserved communities. He also became a vocal advocate for police accountability, speaking at rallies and testifying before state lawmakers. Hargrove's conviction had a ripple effect. 3 other officers in his precinct were disciplined for related misconduct, and the independent review led to the resignation of the police chief. According to a 2021 report by the Georgia ACLU, complaints of racial profiling in Atlanta dropped by 15% following the reforms, though challenges persisted. Marcus's DEA background, once a closely guarded secret, became a symbol of resilience, showing how one man's past could dismantle a corrupt officer's future. Marcus's mother, Lorraine, who had watched the ordeal unfold, expressed pride in her son's courage. "He turned their trap into a triumph," she told reporters. Marcus continued his career in tech, developing software to detect fraudulent financial transactions, a nod to his DEA experience. He also maintained contact with Ruiz, who retired in 2022 but attended the launch of Tech for Justice, calling Marcus the bravest person I've ever worked with. The traffic stop, meant to ruin Marcus, instead exposed a rotten core within the system. Hargrove's mistake was not just planting drugs, but underestimating a man whose integrity and connections outmatched his deception. The case became a touchstone for reform, reminding communities that justice, though hard won, could prevail when truth confronted corruption. Marcus's story didn't end with the courtroom. He mentored young people through his nonprofit, sharing lessons from his ordeal. "Never let someone else's bias define you," he told students at a 2023 Tech for Justice event. His work earned him a Community Leadership Award from the NAACP, and his story was featured in a documentary, Framed and Freed, which aired on PBS in 2024. The film highlighted how Marcus's DEA past, once a burden, became his shield, turning a routine stop into a reckoning for systemic injustice. Hargrove, released on parole in 2025, faded into obscurity, barred from law enforcement. His action, however, left a lasting mark, fueling debates about policing and race. Marcus, meanwhile, continued to build, and advocate, proving that one man's stand could shift the course of history.